o'clock. This is News and Views on Salam Media, and this is one of the reasons why I enjoy my work so much, because I'm exposed to the most amazing people all around the world and the most amazing minds. We just spoke to two amazing women in Istanbul. It was a retired US Army colonel and State Department official and one of the organizers of the flotilla to Gaza, and that, of course, is Anne Wright. We also spoke with Rihab Shaurida, a Palestinian documentary filmmaker, writer, and producer, talking about the flotilla. Both those ladies are going to be on those 8 flotillas. Our next guest is equally amazing, a human rights activist in her own right. She is an award-winning author. She's a writer, obviously, and she is none other than Zukiswa Wanner. And what is so amazing about her is she is here to talk to us about Palestine Week, or rather Week for Palestine. We're going to talk a little bit about her so that you can hear the type of women we have in our midst and let them continue inspiring us and motivating us to also rise up and do the right thing, not only by the Palestinians, but atrocities and suppression and oppression in our own backyards. Zukiswa Wanner, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning to you, Julie. How are you? And thank you for having me.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, and wonderful talking with you this morning. It truly inspires me when I talk with, with women of your caliber, because you do make a meaningful difference, and you certainly put your money where your mouth is. We're going to talk about a week for Palestine, but before we get there, there was a significant event in your life. You return the Girth Medal regarding the medal you received due to Germany's support for Israel. Talk to us about all of those events. The medal, what was the medal? Why were you awarded that medal? What work did you do that you were given that medal? And then all of the events that followed and the space you are currently sitting in right now.
So I was essentially the first African woman to receive this medal, which was for for contribution to culture by the German government. It was beautiful for me. It was in 2020 when they gave me this award. And earlier this year, I decided that Germans' complicity in the genocide, I could not keep this medal. So I returned it to the German government. And obviously with that, I lost some gigs and stuff and everything. But, we're in such a space that, whatever monetary things you might be able to get from anything is not that important. Their lives at stake, their stories, and the people who exist at stake, whose lives are being taken away every day.
Okay, so
yeah.
you returned the award, you returned the gifts that were attached to the award. I'm kind of wondering, future opportunities, does that impact on your opportunities? And what happens with your writing going forward?
No, my writing goes on. We never stop writing. My writing.
No one can take that away from you, because it's all in here, is it not?
But I did lose some opportunities and stuff and everything, and I had them pulled from me. That's okay though, we live, we are alive, we survive. Gazans are dying every day, so I think like whatever little monetary things are so insignificant, at the end of the day, when you look at the bigger picture.
It's your conscience, isn't it? It's knowing
Absolutely.
that the
Julie,
carry on.
Julie, you introduced me as a human rights activist. I'm not a human rights activist. I'm just human. I'm really just a writer, and I'm not a human rights activist. I'm just really like we do. Like, I don't think anybody in their right mind at this particular point would be okay to sign off on what Israel is doing or not speak out about it. So I'm really just human. I'm not a human rights activist. There are people who are doing amazing work in the human rights activists movements. There are people who, got organizations, we've got power, we've got gift of the givers and stuff. I'm not that person. I'm just a writer.
Okay, I choose to refer to you as a human rights activist because that's what I believe you are. How many of us would be brave enough to return an award, including the monetary award, the monetary gains that are attached with those awards? How many of us would take that step? I think as human beings, we do. Some of us don't have a conscience, sadly so. So I do refer to you as an activist because that is, in fact, what you are. Because you are also going to talk with us about Week for Palestine. That indicates you are an activist. Having said all of that, and I've just lost your picture there, I hope you can reconnect with us. Having said all of that, Zukiswa, when you talk about you not being an activist and you're saying that any human being, and I'd like to play on that, I'd like your deep thoughts on that issue. You're suggesting that any and every human being should come to the aid of the Palestinians because it's about your conscience. And we South Africans have been through apartheid. So we should have some idea of the atrocities that's being perpetrated on the Palestinian people. But you know as well as I do that the white supremacist ideology prevails and prevails so strongly that you can't even begin to get your head around the inhumanity, just the way the Palestinians are being dealt with right now by white supremacist governments. And then you kind of ask yourself, do we live on different planets? I read an article and I've always asked myself this question. We spend millions or billions of dollars trying to find life forms on other planets in the universe. And yet we commit the crimes of Holocaust and genocide amongst people who are of maybe slightly different skin color as we are. So, what's the point? What is the point? Your thoughts?
Uh, Julie, I had an experience last year. I was in Palestine, and just seeing, how Palestinians are living, and I don't actually understand how people in this country with a history, knowing our history, you know, would be okay with with apartheid, and Palestinian apartheid is a little bit more nefarious than even our apartheid, for the simple reason that I imagine the apartheid operatives in this country needed us to work. They needed us to be doing some certain jobs and stuff. But with the Palestinian apartheid, it's even worse because they're like, oh, okay, we can go to Malawi and hire workers there. So let's just eliminate all Palestinians. And that's the genocide that we are seeing. So I don't understand any South Africans who are not speaking up for this. And I don't understand South African political parties who are about to go into an election. South African political parties who would not speak up very loudly against this, who would not say, oh, we support South Africa's position at the ICJ. We loved what Tembeka Ngcukaitobe and the whole team did at the ICJ. I don't understand that. Like, you have to be in a place where you actually really, really dislike the rest of the population in this country. I was what I was saying when I was in Palestine, we got a briefing from somebody from international organization, and they say to us, so I said to him, You keep talking about the settlers. Who are the settlers? And they say to me, the settlers, you've got a large group who are Americans, and then you've got a large group who are Europeans, and then you have a fair large group who are South Africans. And I say to them, I was taken aback, and I said, at this South African of Jewish origin, because I know like all my Jewish friends who are South African are like very anti-Zionism. They're anti-apartheid. They're anti, So I said, are Jewish South African? And they said, well, a few, but a majority of them are Afrikaners who have converted to Judaism.
Ooh.
So that essentially these guys miss apartheid so much they're going to reenact apartheid. They have apartheid for subject.
Oh
I
goodness
don't
me.
get
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's just the way you've expressed the issue around missing apartheid so much that they go to another country to practice apartheid there at a much worse, at a much
Orania,
crazy level.
as if Orania was not enough. Because Orania was not enough. I
It,
was like,
well, it is outrageous, Zukiswa. The other thing I want to also touch on is, and you are well aware of it, the soldiers, the young South Africans serving in the IDF, killing innocent men, women, and children in Palestine. Do they even understand the cause that they are fighting for? Do they even understand the history of the Palestinian people? Or is it this white
oh,
supremacist
no,
mentality?
no, no. Julie, they absolutely, I can't excuse that. They absolutely understand. I was in Hebron in May, and while I was in Hebron, um, I didn't believe that story that I'd been told by this person from international organization. I was like, I don't believe that. Like us South Africans, we're moral, we know, you know. And I was in Hebron, and you know, I was sitting with a very good friend of mine, a Jewish friend, who is you know, who's Jewish American. And essentially, she's the person who did the cover for this, you know.
Wow.
I don't know if you could see that.
It's a bit hazy. Yeah. Bring it close. Yeah.
Yeah. The,
Perfect.
she's the person who did the cover essay, cover design for my long form essay on Palestine called Vignettes of People in a Party State. And she said, and I was coming from her with her from the Ibrahimi Mosque. And I heard there was this young woman. She was in uniform and she was walking with a young man and she was singing. And I said, Molly, that girl is South African. And she said to me, how do you know? And I said, I know. I heard her singing. You know what she was singing, Julie? She was singing the stem. And this is like somebody, she's in an apartheid uniform, Israeli occupation forces uniform, and she's singing the same. She was
It's
born after 1994, so she
mm,
doesn't need to be knowing the same, but she knows the
mm,
same, and she's singing,
mhm.
and she's in this uniform, so they know.
Absolutely. Okay. Zukiswa, how would you respond to that comment I made earlier on about Western nations spending billions of dollars trying to find life forms on other planets and yet treat black and brown people in such an atrocious manner? What are they going to do when they find life forms on other planets who look very different to them and probably are of a different color to them? What are they going to do then?
Julie, they have colonized all of the world. Now they're looking for a new place to colonize. And this is what I look at. This is what I think, because um, one of the biggest arguments that is always made by Zionists is, oh, you know, well, the Arabs can go elsewhere because there's a whole lot of land and stuff and everything. And I'm like, no, but actually this is their home, you know. Why do they need to go elsewhere? Why don't you go elsewhere? Why don't you return
Absolutely.
wherever you know? And it's I always say, and I was saying this to somebody this weekend, I said, this is the equivalent of saying during apartheid, oh, the whole African continent is available for black and brown people, so they can go there, so this is going to be a white country. South Africa is going to be a white country. By the way, we don't even have a name. We just have a geographical location. But South Africa is going to be a white country. So the rest of you can go to the rest of the continent because there is a whole bunch of black people on the rest of the continent, and there are brown people on the rest of the continent, and that's problematic because this is our home. And that's the same thing with the Palestinians. You don't get to tell them, oh, you can go to Egypt, you can go to Jordan. Why do they need to go to Jordan? Why do they need to go to Egypt? That's
The
their
original
home. Why?
intent, yeah, the original intent by the Israelis was to push them out into the Sinai desert, and that didn't quite pan out for them. They promised that they'd put up a tent city and keep them safe there whilst everything is settled. But of course, we know that that was not the true intention. They had very nefarious intentions regarding ridding Palestine of
Look,
the indigenous people.
who is to say after they push them to the Sinai, they're not going to decide that they want to take Egypt? Who
Absolutely.
is to say that? And if they take Egypt, who is to say that they're not going to decide that they take the next country after Egypt and so forth and so on and come all the way to South Africa? Who is to say that?
Well,
You know?
well, all I can say to that tongue-in-cheek Zukiswa is that we as brown and black people then need to all migrate to Europe and the UK, because if they're coming to colonize our people, then all we do is here's the land, have it, and then we all migrate there. But that is, of course, saying it very lightly. It's very tongue-in-cheek. Let's talk about Week for Palestine. I'm enjoying this discussion with you, by the way. Before I get to Week for Palestine, you spoke about, back in the day, the apartheid regime having these ideals of keeping South Africa white. And as far as we as black and brown people were, die swart gevaar. Um,
Mm.
from what I'm hearing leading up to the current elections is that the DA seem to have these idealistic notions to make the Western Cape almost a second Orania. Your thoughts? Have you heard anything around that narrative, and how do you respond to it?
Listen, I don't take seriously the desperate alternative in whatever form. Because, well, firstly, can Mr. Stenhazen just get my trick, please, first, so that we can have like
Correction,
some
correction. I said the second Orania, but it seems the idea is a second Israel, a mini Israel in the Western Cape.
I get that. And the DA, when they have talked regarding this issue, they've always said, well, we don't want to scare away investors. And my question is, why are we always, looking at the idea of external investors as opposed to looking for the rights of our own people? DA has been running the Western Cape for years. And there, in running the Western Cape, they have failed dismally. It's Cape Town is still the murder capital of this country. Where is the policing? What are they doing and stuff? You still have a high rate of poverty in Nyanga, in Kailisha, in the Cape Flat, and so forth and so on. So what is DA? Julie, I go to Cape Town every time, and I get into Cape Town and I go there with an aggressive position every time when I land at the airport, because I'm like, oh my God, I need to be fighting battles that I don't need to fight. I always say that Road Must Fall could only have started in Cape Town because Cape Town is so clearly, spatial apartheid. It's clear. And then they want to push this, It's, I don't understand it. I don't get it,
Okay.
It's
Once again, I'll say it: white supremacist thinking. Let's wrap up by talking about Week for Palestine. What's it all about? How do we, as ordinary lay people and citizens, get involved? And what is the key objective regarding the 1st to the 7th of May? Be part of hashtag Week for Palestine.
So, Wait for Palestine is really like fighting and ensuring that we keep Palestine in our minds. So it's 1st to 7th of May. There will be a lot of events around it. And if you are anywhere in this country, there will be events around it. We've got staff in the Eastern Cape, in the Northwest, in KZN, in Western Cape, in Gauteng, So essentially, we are keeping Palestine on our minds, but we're also just really saying, guys, political parties that are anti-Palestine or that haven't signed onto this plate, and political parties are coming on board and they're saying we're signing on, etc. So we've got 13 political parties that have said, you know what, we endorse, and essentially we are saying we speak up for Palestinians, and as part of our international relations issue, if we win the elections, we are going to be keeping Palestine as one of our international issues, and we will be fighting for it. We'll be speaking up for it, and we'll move on with this theme. So we've got like parties, NCEFF, Good, Al Jamaa, a bunch of political parties, AM, 4C, etc., etc. We've got tons of parties that have signed up to this, that have endorsed it. We've got tons of organizations that have not signed up, political parties that have not signed up, pro-Zionist parties, and we are saying, listen, as we go forward, these are people who are anti.
I think you've got a call coming in on your side, and we do need to wrap up now. Her picture's frozen in any event. I do apologize for that. Zukiswa, we have to say goodbye to you now. Thank you indeed for your insights. I'm sorry we have to end it there. We've got our next guest standing by, but look forward to lots more discussions with you in the future.